echoiness. So let's see, hold on. We're gonna remember the end of this song. When met with the silent approach, do I respond or just sulk in fear? Hurts to understand. What choice do I have? Do I have a choice? Or am I just wrong? Can't you even tell? Do you even care? Do I have control? Do I have control? That's all right. Makes for an okay song. The answer might be the same without. Try as hard as I could. I'm aware of the should. Should I change if I could without? What's the difference it makes if we all end up in chains? A friend that is never around isn't a friend at all. If I never pick up the phone, do I exist? Maybe that's the play. Played it in my head, worked out just fine. Am I always the one to call? Can it be you first? Rejection feels the worst. Pressure to get me just right. Never gets it right. Trying all of the time. A friend that is never around isn't a friend at all. When met with the silent approach, do I respond or just sulk in fear? Hurts to understand. What choice do I have? Do I have a choice? Or am I just wrong? Can't you even tell? Do you even care? Do I have control? That works pretty well. Oh, thank you. Club to Death from Matrix. We could look it up. Hey, Omar, let's see. Omer Gizm. Hey, that's a new song that I'm working on. I need to get some stuff down and that's a nice song. Any tips for learning to read sheet music? That's going to be my next goal. Yes, I've got lots of tips. Let's talk about how you read sheet music successfully. And then maybe I'll pick another one of my originals to start looking through. Because I think I want to actually record an EP soon. Not like I have too much going on already in my life, but whatever. What's up? Hey, your old friend. Wow, I can read that. That's hard to read, but I was able to read it. Jesus loves you? Yes, Jesus loves you too. It's the gang! Yes. right, let's talk about reading sheet music. Here's the first tip that I'd give you, and a lot of people miss this tip, and to me, this is the critical one if you actually want to get good at reading sheet music. And that is, yeah, we're talking about reading sheet music. We're talking about reading music. Yes, nerds rejoice, all right? That's what we're doing. Here's the deal. Here's the first tip. The first tip is to know the letters on the piano really well. What are we doing? We're reading sheet music. Man Who Sold the World? Yes, we can totally do Man Who Sold the World. Playing some original music too. Maybe a little bit of classical later on. We'll see what we're doing. But let's talk about sheet music first. You start out with letters on the piano. If you don't know the letters very well on the piano, you have no business reading sheet music. And I don't know how many piano teachers start really aggressively trying to teach reading before they get to there. Can I eat? I don't even know what that is after that, so I'm not even going to try. So the first thing, find your letters. I like to find where A is, group of three in the middle, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. And then you got D right between the two block keys here, D. And then like you can do skip, right? D, F, A, C, E, G, B, D. Stuff like that. Super duper helpful. Get those letters down until you know them dead cold. Now, that's step number one. Here's step number two with learning to read. You're an evil monkey and you came from the shadow realm and you're here to take my gold. Oh no, that's very, very sad. Very, very sad. I wish I didn't have an evil monkey stealing my gold, but such is this. Oh well. Okay, let's talk about reading. You get your letters down. The next thing to do is to understand that you've got steps and skips. What in the world does that mean? Actually, I'm sorry, but well, let's wait. That's step number three. Step number two, figure out where some guide notes are, where you can just grab onto notes on the page. So you've got the treble clef, right? The really squiggly one. That treble clef, you got the G on there. You find those guide notes, right? G for that one. You got middle C, that's another good one. Hey, Aruxi. And then you've got the bass clef, the two dots, in between the two dots, that's bass F. If that's a rude gesture that I just did, sorry. That's just doing that. Play some random ballad music? Yes. Yeah, we can do some random ballad music. Okay. So we've got the clefs, we got some guide notes, and then we know steps versus skips. Here's something I say all the time, and then I'm going to kind of wrap it up on this, and maybe I'll do another video about this. I probably should be making like a sight reading video like every day, because people, that's what I get the most comments about, because I'm a really pretty good sight reader. Here's the deal. Steps versus skips. And understanding the reflexive property. What in the world is the reflexive property? The reflexive property is A equals A. Now, why do I say understanding the reflexive property? People somehow forget that this matters when you're reading music. But let's say there's a big jump in the music. Well, guess what? There's a big jump on the piano. That's how it works. Do you want me to talk normal or weird? Whatever you want to talk. Hey Chirag, no idea why I didn't get a notification. Well, you came in real fast, so good to see you, Chirag. So when you're reading music, think about it logically. If it's a small distance on the piece of paper, it's a small distance on the piano. If it's a big distance on the piece of paper, it's a big distance. One that's a little bit harder is if it looks weird, then you're going to know that it's going to sound weird. But looking weird is something that you have to read enough music to understand what that even means. So anyway, let's go ahead and play some ballad music. You can stop if you want. I can do whatever I want. Man Who Sold the World, we can do that. We passed upon the stairs. We spoke and wasn't when, although I wasn't there. He laughed and shook my hand. I gazed a gazy stare at all the millions there. I thought you died a long, long time ago. Who knows? Not me. We never lost control. You're face to face with the man who sold the world. There's the David Bowie for somebody. For somebody. Alright, let's try the song. What about Wet Sand by Red Hot Chili Peppers? Hey Donna. River Flows in You. We'll do River Flows in You and then I'll try to sing this original. Wet Sand by Red Hot Chili Peppers, but the solo part, we could do that. Lazarus by Porcupine Tree. If you got anybody to invite, you can go ahead and invite them. Let's try to get this stream a little more happening. I'm going to piano lessons today. Gold, Do I have Instagram? I do. That's awesome. Good job for you, Gold. If you got any questions, go ahead and fire them away. I'm happy to answer any questions. Hey, Dan Bruca. You're an evil frog? How do you play with both hands? That's a good question. Can you play a fast song with one hand? Yeah. Let's see. How do you play with both hands? That's a good question, because actually a lot of people struggle with this. Yes. As a drummer, is this in the scale of A? Yes, it is, Chirag. Good ear or good eyesight. So River Flows in You is in the key of A. Now, something I learned from the gospel folks is, in general, it's easy to think of everything in everything in the major key, even if it's technically around the minor. And that's because if you really think about it, all the chords from that are maybe just that major key. So you're 6, 4, 1, 5. So in the key of A major, B minor, C sharp minor, D major, E major, F sharp minor, G sharp diminished, A major. So it's F sharp minor 6, D major 4, A major 1, E major 5. Anyway, back to Dan Bruca's question. Hi from Brazil. That's awesome. I love Brazil. I always have a soft spot for Brazil. Don't take my windows, please, Aruxi. Anyway, back to Dan Bruca. Especially coming from a drummer background, you're going to have the hand independence, but you're not necessarily going to want to do the finger independence. That may be a little harder for you to get your head around. What I would recommend is a couple different ways of doing it. The first is really understanding the rhythm and how they fit together. And this is where actually learning from sheet music is very helpful, because you can see the visual. That vertical line is going to be the place where the hands come together. And so if you can get where that vertical place is, you can basically kind of line up. So like here, I'll give you actually a real world example of this. I am slowly but surely working my way through Fantasy Impromptu here. Very odd 3 against 4. Right? Very, very odd rhythm there. What I can do is I can practice just the left hand by itself, right? Ya da da ya da da da. Understanding the rhythm, right? 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I can practice the right hand. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Then I can practice them, and then I can try to work on just getting the hands to be correctly aligned with each other. And then together. And then at some point I kind of have to just let it be, and that is where the patience piece kind of clicks in. Right? That's going to be the idea there. Yeah, break it down step by step. Wish there were more people, but then there would probably be more questions. Hey, more questions are good. You can do more questions. Nocturne by Frédéric Chopin, you need to be more specific than that. There's a whole lot of nocturnes. There's like 21 nocturnes. Lazarus by the Porcupine Tree. I actually was... I was listening to some of the guy who sings for Porcupine Tree. I can't remember his name right now. His new album. It was nice. And then that's Donna's thing of being able to do just one hand there. You Are My Sunshine? Sure, we can do that. Oh, Opus 9. Still not entirely figured out there. Hold on 2 seconds. I just realized I'm supposed to do some veggies upstairs. Do you take requests today? Sure, when to change. We're taking some. I'm trying to do more classical and more original, but we'll do that. Gotta stop some veggies. These veggies are probably a little sad. Oh, no, I think they're fine. Room tour. Yes, you can see the fact that we don't always close our cabinets. That's the real mystery. Here. You can see the fact that I finally got some actual lights. There you go. Originals, yes. Doing some originals. The hardest nocturne in your opinion. What is the hardest nocturne? Chopin Nocturne Opus 48 number 1. Okay, let's do it. Chopin Opus 48 number 1. It's lento. It can't be hard. Ah. That's beautiful. I like that nocturne a lot. We can get into it later. But Beth, Speed of Light, Sunshine. Oh yeah, we can do Sunshine. We'll go back to the nocturne. Which is your favorite practice for scales? That's a little bit of a confusing question, but I will tell you my favorite way to practice scales, which might be what you're asking. Reverend Insanity, Orange 7, arranged by Fonzie. First movement, Moonlight Sonata. Yeah, we can get to some of this stuff. It's to play very slowly with the metronome, like maybe 100. Like this, hey, curso domiciliar. And then doing eighth notes with it. Then eighths. We'll play the doppio movement. Hold on, we'll get there. And then triplets. And then sixteenths. That's probably my favorite way to practice those. All right, hold on. We got the poco pui movement, and then here's the doppio. All right. So, It's pretty. It's totally pretty. You're gonna go? All right, see you later. Can you play one of Schubert's songs? Sure. That's also how you practice scales? Yeah, because it's great. Valse di Amiri? Sure. This pure ballade stuff? I don't know if I agree. I think it's quite nocturne-like. I think it's quite nocturne-like. Pick a Schubert song and I'll play it. I love this change. So good. Such a simple melody, but so good. Such a simple melody, but so good. The word nocturne here, infinite loop, lol. Why was Beethoven a genius? Because he was deaf. Totally off topic, but how is that there's a yellow and purple shadow? Magic? No, it's just lighting. Yeah, you gotta grunt a little bit. And can you something creepy? I can definitely play something creepy. Why was Beethoven a genius? That's a weird. I wouldn't say a weird question. It's an interesting question. Yeah. So the yellow and purple is just I literally have two different lights, and so that's why. It's just to add a little bit more color, a little more interest. Okay. Let me do this, then I'll play a little bit of something creepy. And then let's talk. Yeah, I want to address this Beethoven genius thing though, because I think this is an interesting concept. The first thing I would say, fallen down, sure, we can get into that. The first thing I would say about Beethoven being a genius is genius is a lot of times I think something that we're seeing more often when I play audio sometimes dies like a tape slowing down. It might just be some weird audio glitch thing, who knows. Okay, golden hour, we could do golden hour. Genius is an interesting label because in many ways I think it's something that is a lot more comfortable after the fact. It can certainly happen during, but Beethoven really was at this very interesting time where now we see him as this bridge composer from traditionalism at that time period to all sorts of new, creative, interesting things. And I think a lot of it just had to do with, he was very bold. Like what we think of as a sonata is because of Beethoven. ADHD maybe. I have had this theory for a while that a lot of the mental disorders that we label and learning disabilities that we label now are signs of things that we in the past would have just left people alone and then realized that they're actually super geniuses on. Sure, we can argue that some other day. Not going to argue that for right now. The thing with Beethoven is there's a couple things that I think people miss. The first is like many of those classical composers, he had a strong musical background. Almost all the super duper famous classical composers had really strong musical backgrounds. Like their parents were almost as famous as they became. Not quite, but almost. I think that's the first big thing to understand. The second, though, is that he not only understood the genre of what he was doing, but he also added on to that and continue pushing on that. Let's do a couple of these popular songs. Fallen Down, sure. Golden Hour, sure. And then I'll do some originals. Maybe I should do a whole video on what Toby Fox is, like why. Maybe I should go through all the video game composers and explain why they work. That'd be kind of a fun idea. Let's see. Did you know they sent Beethoven's Fifth Symphony? Yep, I did know that. And Stravinsky's Sacrificial Dance. That's hilarious. Orange 7. What is the difference between harmonic function between augmented sixth chord and a Neapolitan chord in a minor key? Yeah, I did know that wind of change. That's a really interesting thing. Yeah, the golden record disc. Yeah, that very fascinating thing of history. As much as I love Stravinsky's Sacrificial Dances, if you imagine aliens with that are just analyzing things from a science math standpoint, we probably should have maybe put a little more Bach on there. I'm sure there's Bach on there too. But for sure. Orange 7, hold on. Orange 7, Fonzie? Okay. We can look at this. We'll do a little golden hour. I know you already mentioned this, so that's why I'm popping back into it. Oh, you know, if you don't, the hands help where they are. Now we're getting it. Some of these Muse chord charts are really hard to read until you get. All right, I want to answer this question, then we're going to do some originals. Among overplayed pieces, this is fire. Yeah. Golden Hours has got some. Practice this piece for 2 weeks. Oh, great. It's a cool piece. That is a cool piece. Yeah, the YouTube app doesn't let you do links. For sure. Karma Police. It's a, Elizabeth, hey, I think the reason, Chirag, why the YouTube app doesn't let you do links is they're really, well, it's weird, because why would the web app let you do links, but the YouTube app doesn't? I feel like it's like they're just trying to protect you, but I don't know whether or not, yeah. Yes, Windu is correct. There is a ton of bad bots for sure, and so they're definitely trying to protect against stuff like that. All right, we're gonna do some originals. Another day, another time. Oh, and now I was gonna answer your question from earlier. Paper takes what will rhyme. Subtle clothes redefine. Enter in to disguise. Worthy words float into space until they find my mind is crawling into feelings. It just needs to fall away. Somehow you find the words to make it sting and sweat and fall away. Just fall away, just fall away. How How does it feel? Can't you just sympathize with these eyes? It all just goes away. Standing on the ground, used to take no effort at all. Heavy is the weight, not even sure I know what it's for. When the time delivers the same results, does that mean that you are crazy, or is the world just losing its mind? Somehow you find the words to make it sting and sweat and fall away. Just fall away, just fall away. How does it feel? Can't you just sympathize with these eyes? It all just goes away. Something. You're number 3? Have you learned singing? You listen to music from Ordinary Life? Awesome! Mission Impossible. Hey, Bism. Do you have a pitch knob? Somewhere, maybe. Thank you. You're number 3. You're number 3. You're number 3. There you go. I'm going to probably dig out some more gems later, but for now, we're going to do a little more fantasy impromptu because I've been working on it. Oh, I wanted to answer this question from earlier. What's the difference between a harmonic function of an augmented 6th chord and a Neapolitan chord in a minor key? So first of all, let's try to figure out what these two things are for those who don't know. And actually, I'm going to answer a different question because I actually posted a short today and somebody said something that was, for lack of nice words to say, a little ignorant. And so we will correct that Granted, it's only ignorant if you are a huge, huge mega music nerd. It's actually quite a reasonable position. And it's one that I almost hold, even though it's also just wrong. I always wanted to plug a guitar pedal into piano when we were on our rehearsal, but I was afraid either piano or the pedal would die of it. Have you ever done dumb stuff? Yes, I've done all sorts of dumb stuff with instruments. Okay, when to change? You need to think through what you're actually trying to accomplish. So most guitar pedals, it's a signal thing, right? It's a signal processing thing. You have the output of the one instrument going in, and again, apologize for potentially lewd gestures here. I'm just trying to show how chords work. So you have the out of the keyboard, then it's going into the guitar pedal, and then from the guitar pedal, it's going out to an amp, right? That's how guitar pedals work. It doesn't matter what you plug into the guitar pedal. Now, guitar is a very special instrument because it has a lot of overtones. Like it really does. And that's why you can play a fifth on guitar and it sounds amazing. And you play a fifth on piano, it sounds kind of derpy. That's because the piano just has not quite the same richness of overtones that stringed instruments really generally do. Something about the hammers working instead of that. So anyway, have fun with that. The one thing you don't necessarily want to do is sometimes there's like things related to power, right? And anything related to power you have to be a lot more careful with because, you know, if you remember the original Nintendo Switch, there were power protocols with the way the Nintendo Switch worked. And so if you plugged a USB-C into the dock that was not an official Nintendo Switch charger, it had a potential of frying the Nintendo Switch. And that's because there was a specific power protocol. So power is a completely different concern. Audio waves, though, have as much fun as you want. There's almost nothing you can do to mess it up. Worst case scenario, it just won't work. And then you unplug and it's fine. Okay, let's get into this. So first of all, what's an augmented sixth chord? Let's say we're in the key of C major, right? Well, what an augmented sixth chord is you typically go to the flat six and you make it a dominant seventh chord effectively. So it'd be A flat 7 in the key of C major. Now, that is a misnomer. It's not actually A flat 7 because the actual notes we're looking for is A flat, C, and then D sharp, and then not G flat, but E double sharp. And it's really not A flat either, it's G sharp, right? G sharp and then E double sharp. Kind of a crazy chord, right? So it's a G sharp augmented sixth chord. Ignore all of that. This is all you need to understand with how augmented sixth works versus a dominant seventh chord works. Augmented sixth chords resolve into a dominant seventh. So you go here and then to G7 and then C major, right? Typically though, you do a cadential 6/4. And now I'm losing my entire audience talking about augmented sixth, but whatever. That's what we're here for in this channel. That is how the augmented sixth works. Now, Neapolitan second chords are a flat 2. So again, back to C major. Let's actually say it's C minor, right? Because that's what the person was saying. Then it would be the Neapolitan 6 you start on the third of the Neapolitan second chord. Sorry, Neapolitan 6, right? So it's a flat 2 starting on the third. So it'd be a D flat major chord starting on F. And then it also is a predominant chord. So that resolves again, right? So right away you can see there's different notes involved. In this case we have D flat major notes, right? D flat, F, A flat. And in this case we have A flat 7 notes. A flat, C, E flat, G flat. Now what I'm curious about is, are they referring to, no, that wouldn't work either. The one place where they're similar, wild blossoms, if you're still around, is they do both function as predominant chords. They do both function as predominant chords. But in every other way, they're actually quite a bit different. I guess the other way they're similar is they also are borrowing a lot of notes from the minor key. But yes, other than that, they're a bit different. All right, I want to do a little bit more fantasy impromptu. We're going to get a little bit more new notes learned. Maybe we'll go straight to the ending and work backwards. Let's see. That's beautiful. We're gonna back up a little bit more. All right, back up a little bit more. All right, now we're gonna go a little bit further in. Clair de lune, we could do a little clair de lune. We could do a little bit of the clair de lune. I want to review this one part that I learned before, and then we can do a little more clair de lune. I should learn the B section of this actually. That really is what I should be doing, but that's okay. All right, I want to see if I can get this whole part here. And then here we go. That's beautiful. That worked. You have hyper flexible fingers, and it makes my fingers fold when playing. I can bend my pinky 90 plus degrees. Whew, that's terrifying. Should I work on making my fingers stronger? First of all, I was just double checking. Yeah, no, I have the opposite of hyper flexible fingers. Yes, 100% yes. I would not necessarily do it though in the context of a non-musical exercise. You do need to be careful. This is where music, like I love comparing music to strength training or music to sports because I think it humanizes it in a way that is much more approachable than the way most people describe music. But this is where I would say it is a little bit different because of this is a little bit different because of the delicacy of the hand versus the delicacy of, like, say, the bicep or the chest muscle. These are much bigger muscles than these are. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to treat them all dainty and like, oh, they're so precious. But at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily say that we should be really like just blasting, Czerny for forever and ever and ever. So what I would recommend instead is maybe think about piano things. Like scales are a really great example, and making sure that you're really engaging. Another way, especially if you want to get these last fingers really, really moving, is like 3-note exercises. I'm a huge fan of these. If you love to improvise, pentatonic scales like this, incredible. Like I need to do them more. My hands are all feeling all toast from not practicing that way. All right, we'll do a little Clair de Lune and then probably call it a day on this stream, because I got other stuff I need to be doing. Makes octaves very painful. Yeah. So you can bias to the pinky wind of change. I would say bias to the pinky a little bit. And then honestly, I think I would work until it hurts and then stop. Then work until it hurts and then stop. And if you do that for years and years and years, it will change. It will literally change. One more point on how strong people's hands are and how much you can really grow and progress. Like if you watch people who play like Michel Camille and people of that nature, the way they play the piano looks very physically painful because they're literally like that stuff. Stuff like that, right? Their pinky is just slamming over and over again, especially like you get into like merengue too. Right? All of that is just constantly hammering. And what you find is people who do that, you do it and you got maybe 10 minutes of stamina in you, maybe only 2 minutes of stamina, maybe only 30 seconds. But then over time, it builds and builds and builds. And then before you know it, you can do 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours of salsa. And that style is great because it just is constantly hammering those octaves and it never lets up. But classical can do it too. Anyway, I need to get rolling. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. You guys have been awesome. Greatly appreciated it. Take it easy, like, subscribe. I'm gonna make some more videos soon of different things.